Welcome to another episode of the Can We Talk About It podcast. Today we are talking about the Danish Deception and the real reason why people are not feeling bad for Onyeka like they are feeling for Risa Tisa. I haven't heard anybody talk about this, so I'm going to talk about this from this perspective. So, if you don't know what the Danish Deception is, let me give you a quick synopsis. In her 27-part series, Danish Deception, Onyeka compares herself to Risa Tisa, where she is scammed out of hundreds of thousands of dollars by her fiance slash husband. Risa Tisa has the same story. She calls herself being engaged to a man named Legion, who she calls Legion, who lied to her about several things, lied about his background, his jobs, and people felt really, really bad for Risa Tisa. They did not have the same reception for Onyeka. And listen, like on the surface, those two stories do have some pretty deep overlap. They're both young women, they're being emotionally manipulated and deceived, and they're being taken advantage of by men. But the public response from everybody is quite different. And let's talk about the layers as to why people empathize with Risa Tisa and not Onyeka. None of them are as simple as like one was scammed more, because I think they were equally scammed, but one of them is not receiving the same amount of support and empathy as the other. And Anyaka is really feeling the heat from this because she thought that people were going to say, "Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for you. I'm so sorry this happened." No, people are basically like, "Well, girl, that's what you got." So, let's talk about it. Number 1, beauty privilege or pretty privilege actually cuts both ways. So, yes, I'm going to say what no one else is willing to say, and that is that Anyaka is prettier than Risa Tisa. She is more conventionally attractive, and sometimes with that comes both privilege and denial of privilege. So, people don't really want to admit this, but attractive women often get less sympathy when they make mistakes. Risa Tisa is not what people would consider conventionally attractive. She's a little overweight. She was kind of disheveled looking. She wasn't super successful. And in the eyes of the average viewer, this causes them to say, okay, well, she has lower dating options or less dating options. They see her as more vulnerable because it's like, oh my gosh, that poor woman, she doesn't know any better. Or, oh, she's the overlooked girl. So it makes sense as to why she would fall for a scam like this. When people are perceived as having lower or fewer romantic chances, the audience is more forgiving of like desperation, and that's what's happening here. Is people were more forgiving of her being desperate because she's not as pretty. Risa Tisa does not. If you put those two girls side by side, people will feel more pity for Risa Tisa, and that's why. Onyeka, on the other hand, she was pretty, she's socially confident, she's dated before. We're assuming that she has lots of prospects. And so people expect a different level of behavior from people and women that they think have options. To be honest, you guys, attractive women don't really get room to be clueless because it's like you have so many interactions with men that you should see this. You should see this coming from a mile away. They don't have room to be emotionally naive, and they don't really get the benefit of the doubt when they fall for the wrong men. Pretty women are expected to be smart, and to be fair, Anyeka presents herself as such. They're supposed to be intuitive and kind of immune to scams. And when they aren't, the public is very harsh with them. And that's the truth that nobody wants to talk about. If Anyeka was disheveled and overweight and a little bit less successful, people would have similar levels of sympathy. But she's pretty, and unfortunately, she comes across as kind of having it all together, and people don't like that. Secondly, people just assume that because she's beautiful and because she has experience with men, and she was on the Bachelor, so it's like people know that she has experience dating, she should have seen the red flags, right? It's like, okay, you should have interacted with so many men that you should have seen the red flags. She should know how men operate because she has familiarity with them, whereas Risa Tisa, on the other hand, does not. And ultimately, it's the idea that this doesn't happen to pretty girls, and when it does, it's their fault. The internet believes that experience equals immunity, and that's not true, but that's how we take it in. If you are less than attractive, you get sympathy. But if you're pretty, it's kind of like, oh, you should know better, girl. You should have been around these girls. And then there's another cultural layer that people don't really want to talk about. People are scared to say this out loud. Whether people want to admit it or not, there is tension, and it's subtle, but it's real. There's tension between some African women and then Black American women online. African women will present themselves as more traditional, more cultured, superior, sometimes looking down on Black American women, feminism or social norms. And so when they come online and share these experiences, Black women are like, oh no, we thought we were the ones who were dumb. We're the ones who don't have experience. We're the ones who, can't, who are uneducated. And it's like, well, I'll tell you one thing, we're educated in being able to see a scam. And so there is this layer where Black American women are like, no, no, you guys thought you were better than us. You thought, oh, I can pull a white man, because there is this trope, this adage that Black women, white men would never date Black women because they're so uncultured, they're so ghetto, they lack class. And so what we're seeing is a dynamic where a lot of Black women online are like, okay, girl, you got you a white man and he scammed you out of hundreds of thousands of dollars and your family because you thought you were better than other people. So there's resentment. And a lot of Black women are like, see, you're not better than us. You look down on us, but you fell for the same nonsense. You talk like you're above dating struggles, but you're not. And that's the truth. It's the cultural and identity politics, but no one wants to talk about, but it plays a huge role in it. And here's the unspoken spoken rule, and then I'll leave it at this. People like humbling a confident woman. Now, I don't know if you would call Onyeka confident, right? There's a lot of words that you could use for her, but she presents confidently on camera. She speaks with authority, she looks polished, she has a strong presence, and the internet likes to drag a confident girl. They like to drag people the minute they show vulnerability, especially if people are seen as above average. People do not like seeing people they perceive as privileged going through something regular or embarrassing. They'll call it karma. And going back to what I said earlier, they'll say, you should have known better. So these are my last thoughts on this. None of this is really about morality. There is a lot of psychology, bias, beauty standards, and cultural tension behind the internet's reaction to the Danish deception. Onyeka didn't deserve what happened to her. Risa Tisa didn't deserve what happened to her. Both of them were manipulated. But I do think that both of them came from very different starting points, and they ended in different places as well. Number one, Risa Tisa seemed to take more accountability for her role in this, whereas Onyeka seemed to just talk about it as if like a fond memory, and people didn't take too kindly to that. They felt like she didn't learn anything from her mistakes. Both of these women were manipulated, but the audience is processing them through very different lenses, through beauty privilege, through cultural tensions, and assumptions about who should have known better. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. There are some things that should not be on the internet. I don't know that I would have shared, if I am actively going through legal battles, if I would have actively shared this information with the public. People have been fired for less. And if I was Onyeka, I would take this down. I know it's all over the place, it's too late, but I would take it down and I would try and scoot away quietly and try and leave this unscathed. You never know how people are going to respond to this information. And so if you're still in the public eye, if you're still working with donors, you're working with the community, you have a network, you want to be careful about what you post publicly because you never know how people are going to receive it. So it's always share at your own risk. And this is why, you have to just be careful, because on the surface, these are two of the same stories. And so the expectation would be that both Risa Tisa and Onyeka got the same response, which is empathy, sympathy, compassion. but it's not the same. So this is just a cautionary tale as well for what to share on the internet. All right, you guys, leave your comments below, and we will see you in the next episode.